So we're going to start off today by having a right club bout, which is like a right club fight. This is a literary competition where two writers go head-to-head, each presenting an original piece on opposing themes with a set time limit. They could debate the merits of winning versus losing, which was something from last year, or having an old teacher or a newer teacher as a student. The audience listens to these two writers and then decides by voting who won. So today you're going to see two brothers go head-to-head debating something that they know well and have probably argued about for decades. Is it better to be an older sibling or a younger sibling? So we have musical Mr. Karnstedt and scientist Mr. Karnstedt with us today. Come on out. All right. Now, as an older sibling myself, I'm very biased on this issue. So I'm going to say oldest goes first.
Ooh.
So Mr. Karnstedt, take it away.
Can you guys see us okay? There's not any glare. Good. There we go. All right, here we go. Many think we are twins. However, I'm actually the older and wiser brother. Being the older sibling, it's pretty great. You see, when you're the older sibling, you have a lot more freedom to blaze your own trail. It is easier to have your own identity without having to live up to any expectations that have been set by your siblings before you. Your parents don't always know what they're doing with sibling number one. For example, when I was 4, I tricked my dad into thinking Teddy Grahams were cereal. You get to test out your parents while they're still learning some of these things, whereas by the time the younger sibling comes around, they've hopefully learned these lessons. Also, it is just reality that when you're the oldest, you grow up as the smarter and bigger one. I cannot tell you the amount of times I tricked this guy over here just so I could get my way. Also, if there's any debate over who was getting the last ice cream cone in the freezer and things had to get physical, well, you can imagine how that turned out.
Okay. We don't need to talk about that, all right? Just because I'm younger does not mean I ain't smart or I'm not big, right? Like just because you had 3 years of physical and mental and social emotional growth and development over me, right? That doesn't mean it's the same way now, right? I gained plenty of benefits from being a younger sibling, right? For one, being a younger sibling means that your parents, my parents, had gained knowledge and parenting skills. They could, be good parents. They knew what a nutritious breakfast looked like. They knew how to navigate through school, sports, extracurricular activities. They had experience in how to raise a child, and they could fix all of their mistakes the second time around. Wow. But it was really tough, too. Right? I had to live in your shadow my entire childhood. Everybody treating me like some sort of baby because I was the youngest, right? Even when I was a teenager. Even when I'm 35 years old. I just had a birthday. Woo! Going through school.
Birthday.
Thank you.
I forgot, sorry.
That's going through school, you never had the experiences of every teacher saying, oh, Matt. Right? You don't get call your brother. So I never got new things on my own either, right? All I got were your nasty hand-me-downs and like all the nasty, gross sport equipment that I got, right? And I also had to stay up to the standard that you set.
Okay, I can see you're busting out the time-honored young sibling tradition of using your youth to garner some sympathy being the baby. Listen, you talk like you had it so hard coming second, but here's the reality. Mom and Dad were so exhausted by the time you came around, they didn't have the patience to be nearly as strict with you. For example, I wasn't actually allowed to see R movies until I was in high school, but the next day, him and my dad were just watching brutally violent R-rated movies when he's still in 6th grade.
Yeah, I saw Gladiator in theaters. It was pretty sweet.
I didn't know if they would know what Gladiator was, but yeah.
Oh, the sequel just came out.
I spent over a year begging for a Super Nintendo. Mom and Dad were so resistant, and I finally convinced them that I could do my chores and my homework, and I could still handle having that Super Nintendo. And guess what? You got some stupid kids racing game you didn't even care about just so you were included.
Micro Machines racers.
Finally, let's not forget Mom and Dad were against us having a car until they realized that if they just got us that wonderful 1996 Chevy Blazer, most dangerous car on the road at the time, I could just act as your personal chauffeur, which, by the way, you got that car handed down to you the moment you turned 16.
Okay. that car barely ran by the time I got it, right? You're sitting here trying to break all the speed records on I-94, trying to do the brat stop challenge, right? No wonder the transmission broke down 2 times between home and school. We lived like over there. It was like 2 blocks. The transmission broke down twice. So frustrated I gotta flip my page. Right? What about the fact that when we finally traded it in, you got the car? I didn't get anything. I had to save up money to get those transmission fixed, but you got the trade-in. Besides, it was a piece of junk, but you still got it first. You had the first car, the first cell phone, all the first big celebrations like your Sweet 16 and your high school graduation. But by the time I got there, our parents were like, not a big deal.
All right. No time to air our grievances from the Karnstedt family. Let's focus on the right bout or get off the stage.
All right, thank you for bringing us back to reality. All right, you're right. Let's get back to the point. I'll give you the real reasons why it's better to be a younger sibling. As a kid, I felt like I had to rise up to the standard that you set. True. But I think the more important thing is that you were always there to blaze a path. I think about the music you listen to and the music I listen to, and it's influenced by what you had on your CD player growing up, right? Our mutual love of Everton Football Club and the amazing experiences that gave us, like in front of the library building right there. That was pretty cool, right? Both of us running cross country and track, right? That is all influenced by you. And you were the one, right, that pretty much influenced me to do those. I know I was probably annoying, but like, I followed you everywhere because I knew those were the things you were interested in. Oh yeah, it's still me, sorry.
It's all right, I got it.
See, I like that. It's easy to be wrapped up in being jealous about the older sibling and feeling like you're in their shadow. But in reality, I've always looked up to you, right? You've set a standard, but you've set an example for me to strive for. And I think that made me a stronger person. Always having to catch up to you allowed me to grow in what I think is accelerated ways that some of my friends and peers didn't experience. Right? It gave me an inner strength to also branch out on my own and develop my own personality and my own talents and interests. And I always knew that you would be there as a mentor, a protector, and in some ways like sort of a cooler parent figure that I could rely on, right? And to me, those are the real benefits of being a younger sibling. And I'll always be proud of the fact that I have you as my older brother.
Aw, thanks. Look, you said such nice things, but to be honest, in our childhood, I found you kind of annoying. But maybe that's how siblings are sometimes. I mean, as I was writing this, I was sitting with my son and my daughter. They're 6 and 3. My 6-year-old Aiden gets annoyed with his little sister Rosie getting up in his space. And I remember feeling that way too. But I see as a parent the reason why she behaves that way. And that's because she looks up to my son. I realized there was a lot of that in our brother dynamic growing up. You don't appreciate it when you're young, but it is cool to watch a younger sibling observe the world through the lens of their older sibling. It doesn't mean that they have to follow the same path, but it's pretty cool to watch them, pretty cool then to watch that in reverse and see how they react just a little bit differently to the world than you might. If you're an older sibling, you can learn a lot about yourself by observing how your younger sibling navigates their life. Being put into a position of being a role model also gives you some accountability that if you take seriously, can really help you grow as a person. You know, the second I left for college and didn't have you around every day, I realized how lucky I was to have you as a younger sibling who I share mutual respect and trust with. As we navigate life as adults and realize how important our relationship is to me, I wish I could have seen that through some of the petty teenage differences we may have had. So to all you siblings out there, if you feel like you have some sort of sibling rivalry, consider for a moment that your siblings are someone that you experience life with, and that creates a bond that you will really grow to appreciate, and they become an important part of your support system as you grow up.
Nice job. All right, so one final question, though. You've forgotten about the experiences of the middle children.
Well, I think everybody forgets about the middle child.
Awesome, thank you guys. All right, today we have to vote. We have to see who won. All right, so you can, sure, take a seat. All right, so with regards to the question, is it better to be an older or younger sibling? Who do you think won? Who thinks older siblings? It's better to be an older sibling. Raise your hand. Nice. Okay, younger siblings?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't know. Is it
I feel like
younger
I'm
siblings?
biased by the audience population here.
Okay, the music students in here. Awesome. All right, cool. So, am I supposed to give them time to ask questions? I don't remember. It's not written on here. But does anyone have maybe one question for Mr. Matt Karnstedt and maybe one question for Mr. Paul Karnstedt in terms of their writing process?
Did you two always bicker a lot, like regarding the writing?
I think you have maybe a microphone.
Regarding the writing of this, no, we didn't really bicker that much. Like growing up, we definitely bickered a lot. But writing this, it was pretty much like we set a structure. He kind of wrote his piece, I wrote my piece, and then we sort of looked at what each other was writing and adjusted from there.
We had the premise that we wanted to kind of flip the script halfway through.
Yeah.
Of like starting to advocate for ourselves and then starting to
Yeah.
pretend to have these teenage grievances. So I guess we sort of had that outline
Yeah.
to start. And we were on the same page there.
Yeah. Yeah, the bickering was scripted.
Hopefully we acted well.
Have it for proof.
Thanks.
Like there's another question.
Maybe one more question, anybody?
Yeah?
When did you realize that you both had different interests and wanted to become teachers of different subjects?
Oh, that's a good question.
Why don't you answer? I guess I can.
Sure. I would say that my influence to go into teaching was, or my reason to go into teaching was definitely influenced by like when he started to go into teaching. Because again, he's 3 years older than me, so he was sort of going down that path a little bit by the time I started entering that. But I think as we, especially as like after he graduated high school, is where my interest went more into the music side of things and not so much into the science side of things. Sorry, science teachers, even though you're great. Shout out Mr. Mark and Mr. Dawson. And who else did I have as science? Mr. Alban, I had him too. Dr. Alban, yeah. So, but our interests sort of diverged there, but I do think it is interesting that we both sort of split those paths, but they kind of converged again in teaching of those things that we're interested in. So, yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say that I think it was pretty clear early on in our childhood, like in high school, that he was going down like a musical path. Like you were clearly very talented at the saxophone. Like I knew that even in high school, that when he was in middle school, he was probably going to be doing something in music. So I think as far as teaching, I mean, we had other family members that taught, and I think that was, and also just having great teachers here while I was at Libertyville inspired me to be a teacher. But it's been awesome to both be doing this. It's a real, it's awesome to be able to see my brother at work every day and talk completely different types of teaching.
Very different types of teaching. Cool.
We got to move on, but maybe you can ask them later. All right. Thank you, Mr. Karnstedt
Thank
and
you.
Mr. Karnstedt. All right. So today's featured guest is a guitarist, motivational speaker, and advocate whose remarkable story inspires others to live their best life. His platform, Pete's Diary, combines his passion for music and storytelling in order to spread messages of resilience, self-acceptance, and authenticity. He has been honored as a champion of hope by Global Genes and as a patient of courage by the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. He is an ambassador for Children's Craniofacial Association and was featured in the May 2023 issue of Guitar World magazine. He is also an LHS alum. Please welcome Peter Dankelson.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Awesome. Thanks. There we go. All right. So no, it's yeah. No, it's great to be back here. Super excited. We good? Oh, okay. Okay. So again, my name is Peter Dankelson. I'm an LHS alum, class of 2019. Really excited to be here today and talk to you all. So, since graduating, I've released an EP and an album with my band Pete's Diary. The album was written and recorded in Los Angeles, and that was a really great experience. You can find the music on all streaming platforms. And I've also published my autobiography. My mom is here with me today. She's over here. And she's the co-author of the book. She also wrote a picture book about how I learned to embrace my differences. And that's the main theme that I would like to share with you guys today. My book is called How I Learned to Rock My Life. And what that means is how I've learned to live my best life and to be the best version of myself. It's a practice that anybody can use, and it costs nothing, but it pays back in big ways. And I know it works because it's why I'm talking with you all today. And I also know that it works because it's how I've gotten to share the stage with some of my guitar heroes. And I also know it works because it's how I persevered through more than almost 40 surgeries. I was born with a complex medical condition called golden heart syndrome. And basically what golden heart is, it's a collection of birth defects that occur together, but the cause is still unknown. And in my case, that included a cleft palate, problems with my back and neck, missing my left ear, missing one kidney, missing some parts of my jaw, missing muscle in my left thumb, and I think you kind of get the idea by now. At this point, I'm just missing a bunch of stuff. Growing up, I wished more than anything that I could look like everybody else. So when I was 5 years old, I asked my parents if we could go to an ear store for my birthday. And that's all that I wanted for my 5th birthday. You know, it wasn't like a bike or a new toy or, video game or something like that. I wanted a body part. And so I got my prosthetic ear, and I absolutely loved it because it kind of made me feel, air quotes, normal. So the prosthetic was great because nobody pointed or stared anymore, and it made me feel really good about myself. It kind of started this cycle of self-acceptance that built on my confidence. And that cycle kept growing and repeating in my early years. I was fortunately never bullied at school, never had a problem with anybody. So I actually went to a small private school in Michigan, and I had the same classmates from kindergarten to 8th grade. So we all kind of grew up together, which was really nice. And then I had my world completely turned upside down in between 8th grade and freshman year when we moved from Michigan to Illinois. And that's how I ended up here at LHS. And I don't, you can ignore the picture. I wasn't happy when we moved, but I absolutely loved the 4 years that I had here. It was a really great time. But at the beginning, it was very challenging, walking into LHS where I didn't know anybody, new surroundings, knew everything, right? It was a little bit terrifying. So I did everything I could to kind of make myself invisible. At the beginning, I kept my head down, I copied everybody else and kind of put earbuds in between periods. I wore my prosthetic every day, and it was working. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, etc. And it was all good until one day the inevitable finally happened. One day, my prosthetic ear started to slip off after a particularly sweaty gym class. And the ear adheres with a special glue, so if it gets bumped or sweaty, it can fall off. So when I was younger and this happened, my parents and I, we would just laugh it off, not really too big of a deal, right? So I followed their example, and I tried to have fun with it. I mean, the jokes kind of practically write themselves. So like here, just scared a ton of people in the hallway. And then when I eventually picked up the guitar, to all my guitar player friends, please watch your volume. Cranked Marshalls can blow your ears off. It's true, and that's kind of half the fun with those amps. Nowadays, I don't wear the prosthetic anymore because I'm okay with how I look. I get comments all the time that I should grow my hair out like a real rock star, but honestly, I really like to keep it short. I mean, seriously, to me, what's more rock and roll than showing off my surgery scars? I think it's kind of cool. So feeling more confident inspired me to take action. I joined some clubs here, like Best Buddies, and I even tried fencing my freshman year. I was listening to music, though, and that eventually is what led to me picking up the guitar at the end of my freshman year. So hearing AC/DC for the first time is really what lit that spark for me. Luckily, my dad had an old guitar and an amp from when he was in high school. He showed me how to tune it and plug it in and, just basically said, have fun. So I found lessons on YouTube, and then I started, trying to teach myself with chords and songs. And I played every single day after school. I was completely obsessed. And what I love most about playing is all the different emotions that you can pour into the guitar. And let me show you what I mean. All right, I'll try and talk loudly here. I have a pretty quiet voice. But, with the guitar, there's all these different emotions that you can put into it, right? So, like, say you're feeling happy and excited. You're having a really great day. You could play, something that's kind of up-tempo. So, you could play something that's got a little bit of swagger to it, a little bit of fun. It could be the flip side. You could be not having a great day. It could be something a little bit more emotional, a little bit sadder, right? Or, you could be really mad about something. There was the presentation before about, fighting with your sibling. Me and my younger brother, we got along all the time. We totally did bicker or fight. So, you could totally get some aggression out on the guitar as well. So point B, there's all these different emotions that you could put into the guitar, no matter how you're feeling. So, and it was great too, because after I picked up the guitar, a School of Rock opened up right here in Libertyville. It's right down the road, right? About a year after I started playing. And it was great because it gave you performance opportunities, like touring with the School of Rock All-Stars, and we'd play around town all the time on the weekends, right? And it was awesome. I made some really great friends, and I had a lot of fun. And it was awesome because being in a band made me want to hear better. A guitar player, for example, like the first Van Halen record, Eddie Van Halen recorded his guitar on the left side. So having one ear, I kind of had to flip the headphones around to be able to hear his playing. And I wanted to be able to hear in stereo. So for pretty much my whole life, I knew that getting a cochlear implant was always an option, but I was really scared to have to go through with the surgery to get it. And I was kind of nervous that people would stare at it. It's a little bit intimidating. So I ended up deciding to go through with the surgery and getting it. And I was second-guessing myself the day of the procedure, but I'm really glad that I went through with it. It's been a complete life changer for me to be able to hear conversations in loud environments, like restaurants or the hallways. So choosing to get the implant gave me the courage to face an even bigger and unexpected surgery. I needed a trach at birth to help me to breathe. And doctors removed this trach tube when I was 4, but the hole in my neck never closed. So after 19 years, I finally got the approval to get it closed, and that was great news. But I found out that closing it meant having my airway completely reconstructed. Deep down, I knew that closing it was the best option for my long-term health, but I was very scared. I could have left it open, but I chose to face my fear and go through with the surgery. And it was a very difficult recovery. After the surgery, I spent about a week in ICU on a ventilator. And to get through it mentally, I tried to tell myself things like, this won't last forever, and this is going to be worth it to be able to breathe better. And I reminded myself that everybody in that ICU was fighting a different and difficult battle. My recovery, I understood, was tougher than some, but I also understood that it was easier than others. So those are a few examples of how I've learned to rock my life, by staying positive, overcoming my fears, and pursuing my passion for music. And this is a practice that you all can use too. It costs nothing, but it pays back in really big ways. Repeating this circle over and over and over gives you a happier and more positive outlook, quality relationships, and also new opportunities and experiences. So the easiest way to start is by checking in with that little voice that is inside of your head. What you think about yourself, the words that you choose to describe yourself can either build you up or they can tear you down. So find a favorite quote or a motto that motivates and inspires you. Put it somewhere that you will see it every day, and even better, you can write your own. So that's what I did. Mine is rocking my life as a metalhead. I mean, I think it's perfect because it's got a little bit of humor in there. It makes you feel good, and it's also very true. It very much shows what I've been through. Like if you look up here, that white circle in this X-ray here, that's actually my hearing aid magnet. And then right down here is that white diagonal line is from a jaw surgery, implant from a jaw surgery that I had quite a few years ago. And then below that are plates and screws from that jaw surgery as well on my right side. And I don't even know what all the hardware is in the front there. I think that was from the jaw surgery as well to kind of help hold everything in place. So another tool is checking your perspective. Your attitude and your life shapes how you live it. Do you think of yourself as a victim of circumstance or as a hero of your story? It's the difference between me thinking about myself as missing an ear is weird versus being different is cool. The first makes me feel bad about myself, kind of more of a victim mentality. The second, though, is much more empowering. And also, practice gratitude. Instead of focusing on what you want, be content with what you have. And also, take measured risks. If you're afraid to try something, ask yourself, what is the worst possible outcome and what is the best outcome? If you're okay with either, then it's time to take that leap of faith. Another thing, too, is overcoming adversity. I have no muscle in my left thumb. So I can't really grip much or use it much at all. I can really just kind of move it side to side. But I didn't quit playing the guitar. I figured out a way how to play certain chords differently. And then find a creative outlet that you enjoy. For me, obviously, that's music and playing guitar. But for you, it could be different. It could be something like cooking, gardening, writing, or drawing. These creative pursuits engage your mind to think differently, build connection, and help you manage stress and anxiety. My last tip, though, is to have a sense of humor. You can't take life too seriously, and humor is such a great way to connect. And these are all ways to maximize your potential. Self-motivation, checking your perspective, practicing gratitude, taking measured risks, finding a creative hobby, and having a sense of humor. And that's how I've learned to rock my life, by using the tools in red to achieve the results in yellow. It's a process for living your best life. And today, I hope that I've inspired you to give that a try. Thank you. Yeah, do we have any questions? Yeah, questions, requests, whatever you guys want. Anyone?
There's one in the back.
Hardest song I know on guitar. I haven't played it in a while. I don't know. There's a song by Stevie Ray Vaughan that was kind of a great challenge to get recently. It's a song called Scuttlebutt. It's this really intense instrumental. That was a big one to kind of conquer recently. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Can you play a bit of your favorite song to play?
Play a bit of my favorite song. Okay. So I'm stoked about AC/DC coming to Soldier Field at the end of May. I'm going to be at that show for sure. My all-time favorite band, Angus, is my hero. But I hope it's still in the set list, but my favorite song from them is a tune called Riff Raff, and here's a bit of that riff.
Any song requests or questions about so the music writing? You didn't really talk a lot about the music writing, so you've got the album out.
Do you write like the music to your songs, or do you have any lyrics to your songs as well?
So I've been trying to dive into that more recently. The band unfortunately kind of broke up, so I'm kind of diving into like writing lyrics now and trying to do some of that. So like it was mentioned in the presentation earlier, you know, your notes app in your phone. When we went out and did the Keep On Rockin' album, our producer, Keith Nelson, he was one of the founding guitar players in the band Buck Cherry. He said, and I'm still doing this too, you know, you kind of come up with like, they call them hook titles or something like that, you know, some favorite phrases. So I just have this long string, this long ongoing list in my notes app of like, you know, phrases I might find interesting, or, you know, if I think of something in my head of something I want to write about, you go and look at that list and see if there's a title that jumps out at you. Or if I come up with a riff or something, and I use voice memos is a great way to kind of get ideas down for a riff idea. Or like even like I was walking the dog just a couple days ago, and I was listening to some music. I was listening to a ZZ Top song, and I heard them doing something in my head. I'm like, well, you could arrange this a little bit differently and get something kind of different out of it. And so while walking the dog, I take out my phone and I try and hum into the voice memos, you know, a melody, and try and like, you know, I don't know, think of a beat or something like that, and try and get home and hope you could figure it out. So there's all these different ways to kind of approach riff writing and doing lyrics. Lyrics are a little bit something I'm still working on, but riff writing and coming up with stuff on the guitar is a lot of fun. Oh, yeah.
Other than Angus Young, who's your favorite guitar player?
Let's see. So Angus is my guy, but Slash from Guns N' Roses is a big one. I remember seeing him live with GNR. It was a school night, and yeah, I was very tired the next day, but it was worth it. 3-hour shows. That was a long night. It was worth it. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
What led you to the guitar specifically?
So I think the main thing with the guitar was just with moving and all of that, you know, the guitar, just listening to rock and roll, just like hard rock music, it was like, okay, the guitar kind of jumps out at you a little bit, and it sounds, to me, it just sounded really cool and interesting. So it was like, I might want to give this a try. So then that's what kind of led me to picking it up. And once I did pick it up, there was no going back. I was instantly hooked. Yeah.
Do you like to play acoustic guitar or only electric?
Do I like to play acoustic or electric? Definitely electric more. But I'll sit with an acoustic. I have one at home, and I'll sit with it sometimes.
For writing?
Not really for writing. Yeah. Back in Black? Yeah, yeah.
How about one of your songs?
Let's see. So, okay, it'll sound a little bit different, but probably my favorite song on the Keep On Rockin' album. It's the first track on the album. It's a song called Live It Up. It's unapologetically the AC/DC inspired tune. Yeah, so, if you listen to the track, it'll sound a little bit different because I'm tuned differently, but you get the idea.
Fans of Stranger Things? Master, you hate when I request this. Little Metallica. And for the record, I believe you got a C in guitar class here at LHS. He didn't like reading music. Well, you don't read music. And it was acoustic. I don't know, I'm like, how is this possible?
Can you all do Stairway to Heaven? Oh, yeah.
Ooh, the forbidden
It's
song.
been a while. Let's see.
Kiss, the first song that I ever played live, or like in front of a crowd, was actually in the gym over here. It was the Best Buddies talent show, and I'm like, okay, I've been playing for about a year at this point, and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna play? You know, so I played along to Detroit Rock City by Kiss. So that was my live debut in the gym. That was pretty cool. But I think one of my favorite Kiss riffs. There's so many great ones. There's a tune, Cold Gin is always a fun one.
What about Aerosmith? Oh, we don't have enough time. Any other requests? You played it at a basketball game, didn't you? A couple times, once.
It's been a while. I don't know. That's one I don't want to butcher. Oh, I haven't played that in a while. Let's see.
Sounded like a beginner there. What time is the period over? Oh, okay. 1 minute. Last.
Do you know Through the Fire and Flames?
Oh, no, that should be that one,
Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Knocking on Heaven's Door as they exit.